Glad to hear it. And Grim, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
All right, so quick rundown. Octopath Traveler is a very retro-style RPG made for the Nintendo Switch. Came out earlier this year. It definitely seems to have reignited a lot of people's interest in retro RPGs. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we'll explain what the game is like on the way. Time will start when I select yes on Begin Your Adventure as Tressa. So let's get started in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck, dude.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Octopath Traveler, as the name sort of implies, there are 8 playable characters, hence Octopath. We're going to be playing Tressa, and we'll get the chance to recruit those other characters as well. But the way speedrun categories work in this game is you pick one of the 8, and your time finishes when you finish the story of that character. Being an RPG, of course, we immediately get to a whole lot of menuing and shopping. What would you expect from a RPG speedrun?
Yeah, literally the first thing we're doing here is going into a shop and using that starting money to buy the Wolf's Bow and equip that on Tressa. And that's really like our only equipment purchase in the entire game. It's going to give us a big boost to elemental attack, which is going to help us in this first chapter here.
So you want to take 5 seconds and talk about not the full story, but just what's the context or what's happening on screen?
Sure, we're playing Tressa, who is a young aspiring merchant that lives in this port town, and she wants to go out and see the world and learn how to be a better merchant. She's just a really lighthearted character, just a ball of fluff. There's a lot of variety in the stories of the characters in this game. Like if you're playing Primrose, you get this real dark revenge story, but Tressa, none of that. This is just a lighthearted story. Unfortunately, we're not actually going to get to see any of it because you can see when these cutscenes come up, you just hold down B, don't have to watch any of it.
That's really what happened here is, Tressa went out to go restock her shop, and her wine got stolen by some pirates, and now she's going to go get some revenge. So to do that, we're buying some sleeping herbs here. We're going to mix it to the wine and present it as a gift to the pirates because they're such nice people. And what that's going to do is put them all to sleep and just be able to go in and grab the stuff they stole back.
It's really lighthearted. Just drug a whole cave full of people. It's a child's story, I think.
Okay, so now let's get into the combat system because that's the real meat and potatoes of this speedrun. This is a turn-based RPG, much in the vein of some older RPGs like, the old Final Fantasies or like Final Fantasy X, things like that. But despite that, it's still going to be pretty fast-paced anyway because of a couple of really cool mechanics. Graham, why don't you explain some of the battle mechanics we'll be utilizing here?
Yeah, really like the crux of the entire game and, just how we approach the speedrun and how we take down the bosses is this mechanic called break. So as we get into encounters, you'll see below the sprite of the enemy, there's this little shield. And that shield, right there, it says has 1 for this particular enemy. That's how many attacks it's going to take to go into what's called break. And if you attack an enemy with its weakness, it will break, it will end their turns for the current turn, as well as the next turn, as well as make them weak to all attacks. So, managing when we break things and what we do while they're broken is really, really important. Yeah,
and the elements or the types of weapons that a particular enemy is weak to, that's always consistent, right, Roos?
Yes, there's no RNG to it. It is hidden from you the first time you get to it, but being a speedrun, we already know in advance what's going to break them, what kind of elements to use. Grim, you want to explain boost points for everybody?
Yeah, so boost points, it's something that you'll see more clearly when we're in combat again. If you look sort of on the right side of the screen near the character's health and basically mana bars, you'll see some orange little dots. Each of those dots is a boost point, and you generate 1 boost point at the end of each turn, right? That's how it works?
The start of the next turn, yeah, but essentially the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, and what boost points do is that you can use them to power up an attack using a maximum of up to 3. For melee attacks, that means that you up the number of attacks, so rather than 1 attack, you do 2 or 3, or however many you need to do. And for magical attacks, it increases the power of those attacks.
Yes, that's really important because we can use boost points on regular attacks to, break down those shields fast to put the enemies in that break state. And, for the magical spells, it still counts as 1 attack, it just does a lot of damage. Now we're heading over here to grab this soul stone from this chest. We're going to use that immediately on this boss. It's a one-time consumable that deals a ton of damage.
Yeah, and soul stones are going to be super important in this run. We're going to be taking a lot of time to gather some because given that this is a speed run, we're really not going to be doing a lot of leveling up. So we need those consumable items to still be able to do appropriate amounts of damage later on in the game.
All right, this is Tressa's Chapter 1 boss. So, 2 enemies. We see they have the shield counter of 3 and 4. We're going to start by bringing the tall guy down to 1 shield. We're going to try and break them like in a specific order, so we like in the fight as fast as possible.
It's one of my favorite parts about this run. It's a game that I'm admittedly less familiar with than either Fant or Roos, but it's been fascinating to me to hear Roos's explanations of how you time all the various attacks to make sure that you can survive all these fights at such low levels. It's fascinating.
Yeah, some of these fight strategies are pretty ingenious. So right now what we're trying to do is set them up so that they're both very close to break. And then we're going to finish them, like finish the break. We're going to unload a ton of boosted attacks to do a lot of damage, and then clean them up with that Thunder Soulstone that we got earlier.
Yeah,
so we've got some... Go ahead.
No, so once they're broken, you could do like a big boost on trade wins, and it deals an absurd amount of damage.
Yeah, you're about to see that right here. Short guy on the left here. Once he's broken, I'm going to max boost this trade wins and hit him, and you're just going to see tons and tons of damage relative to our level here.
Pay attention to those orange dots next to Tressa's name. Those are the boost points that are currently full up at 5, although we're about to use 3 of them.
Yeah, you can only use 3 at a time, but you can accumulate up to 5. And now we're going to use the Soulstone, because remember we left this guy on the top at 1. So this Soulstone's going to take out the short guy, as well as break the tall guy, and then we'll just do 1 more max boost on trade wins, and that should end the fight.
Here it is. Check out this damage. See you later.
And that's
nice
really
fight.
why we bought why we bought that bow, because it increases the damage that trade winds does and just allows us to easily take out this fight. And that's the boss for Chapter 1 of Tressa.
So when we refer to these chapters, essentially the way the game is structured is each of the 8 characters has 4 chapters to their story, and they get progressively more difficult. And as soon as you recruit a character, you can immediately start doing their chapters, and they have to be done in order. So like we have to do Tressa's chapter 1 and then her chapter 2, etc. But we can tackle different characters in any order we want. So like we can do Tressa's chapter 1, then recruit some other characters, then come back and do Tressa's chapter 2, things like that. So we can mix and match that order as much as we want.
So now might be a good time to start talking about some of these random encounters, right? Kind of getting out into the wilderness.
Well,
yes.
First we're going to tackle this, this side quest here. We start the game off with 3 healing grapes, and wanted to use 2 in the boss fight to keep our HP up, but having 1 just so we can turn it back in here and get some easy money. The money is going to be crucial later on. We'll get into that when the time comes. Yeah, so random encounters. Every time you enter a new screen, you'll get like a counter, say like 20 to 30, 30 to 40. I forget exactly what it is, and after walking those number of steps, you'll enter a random encounter. And if you make it to another screen, then that counter resets. So if you get through a screen without battles, it's not going to be an early battle on the next screen. You start over from 0.
What to do?
We get into an encounter here. We don't really want to deal with it now, so we're just going to run away and move on.
Yeah, we're really not going to actually need level ups that badly in this run. The damage sources that we're going to be using are selected because they're independent of our levels. So like those soul stones that you can throw, those don't care what your stats are, only that you used one and it's going to do a flat amount of damage. And we're going to be using some abilities later on as well that are based on money, not on stats. So there's really not actually that much advantage to leveling up other than a little extra safety health. So there's taking the time to fight these fights right now wouldn't actually do very much for us.
And you may notice that for a lot of these enemies, we're choosing to break them and then just run away. And the reason we do that is because after you break them, the chance to flee increases to 100%. So we're going to break this guy right here, but we're going to kill this one.
No, we're going to flee from him.
Yeah.
If you're going for world record attempts, you won't bother to break them first. You'll just run away because you save yourself those few extra seconds if you get lucky. But for a marathon setting, definitely think it's worth spending, 2 extra seconds per fight to make sure you're not, failing to flee over and over and taking a lot of damage while you do it.
I'm enjoying how weird some of these enemies look, by the way. One of them is like something out of Dark Souls.
Enemy designs in this game are really fantastic, actually. I just love the artwork, really the aesthetics of this game in general. Like it's like the most beautiful isometric 2D game I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, so this is Atlas Dam. We're going to recruit our second character here, Cyrus. Cyrus, the studious scholar. He's a teacher at the university here, and he uses his power of induction or deduction to, solve crimes. So basically Sherlock Holmes. But, unfortunately, his power of deduction isn't good enough because he cannot pick up on all of the girls in his class that are trying to hit on him, and he's just completely oblivious the entire time.
He's like if Sherlock Holmes was an oblivious anime protagonist, essentially.
But, you know, using that power of deduction, he did determine that, you know, the bad guy that, you know, stole this book and in the flashback that we skipped is hiding out in this really eerie, firelit cave, you know. It's technically this guy's office, but man, you know, who would have expected this to be the bad guy, Roos?
Nobody could have seen this coming.
I wonder what the rent is on a giant underground cave.
One evil per month.
Exactly.
So we're taking a little time to fight a few fights here. We want to get an ability called Hired Help on Tressa before this fight. So Fant, why don't you go into the mechanics on how we learn abilities in this game?
Yeah, so as you kill enemies, in addition to getting experience, you also get job points. And you could spend those job points to pick skills to learn at your choice based on the job of the character. You know, Tressa has this really, really amazing ability called Hired Help. It allows you to spend your money to recruit basically allies for a one-time attack. And those attacks are not based on levels, so we're going to use that a lot to do damage. It's pretty much our primary damage source after this, in addition to soul stones.
And just like any spell, when you use Hired Help, it can be boosted with boost points for a number of these ultra-powerful attacks. And if you don't believe me, just as we get into some of these fights with Hired Help in a little bit here, not even a little bit, very shortly, pay attention to some of the damage numbers. Are going to be quite a bit higher than we've seen so far.
So we got a little bit unlucky there. That skeleton fight is rare, and it's a little bit slower and actually gives a little bit less experience. But fortunately, because we first turn killed the little ice lantern earlier, we actually got some bonus JP and still managed to recover out of it anyway.
Yeah, so this is Russell, the boss for Cyrus's Chapter 1. You know, we get here and he denies everything, having done anything, despite like all his summoned minions like attacking you. Finally admits to it, and now we're just gonna kick his butt, make him see it.
Yeah, solid usage of one of those soul stones there to just take out the little, I think they're water wisps. Just get them out of the way early.
So you can see we're gonna save up some boost points on Cyrus there to make sure he gets four attacks off with his staff, and that really rapidly broke Russell's shield here, opening up Russell to get hit with this boosted Hired Help bandits there. So you can see, like, even our big attacks with like max boosted trade wins earlier, we're doing like 500 damage, but there, in exchange for the 800 money we spent, we got 4 hits at like 800 apiece, and that's one of the weakest versions of Hired Help.
Yeah, that's the cheap version of Hired Help. It has like a whole bunch of tiers with more and more money. The max costing 30,000 bucks and unleashes veteran soldiers for like 7,000 damage apiece, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah, and because it's independent of our levels, it's far and away the most useful skill we can get for a speedrun, because, you know, it's easy to go around the world and find money. It takes a long time to actually level up to the point where we can do that much damage independently of Hired Help.
Yeah, one kind of, it isn't exactly a subtlety, but just an important point that I think we mentioned, but just to make it clear, regarding the break mechanic in fights, it doesn't matter how much damage you do. It only matters that you get a hit. So that's where, especially later on in the fight, even against these very powerful foes, you'll often have certain party members hitting with, you know, a dinky little stick just to kind of chip away at that break value.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, some of our abilities we're going to be using for break very specifically do almost no damage. They're just good because they are multi-hitting attacks that are good for breaking shields.
So what's the next objective?
Our next objective is going to be to get up to where our third character is going to be, but in addition, we also just need to like get some level ups on Cyrus for a pretty useful passive ability that we're looking for. Fant, do you want to talk about that passive we're looking for?
This is Slippy the Frog.
Yeah, so after we're done taking care of Slippy here, we'll head into the side area that's like a bit of a higher level area to get some money, as well as getting an encounter that will give us a ton of XP. And we want that because Cyrus has a great passive ability called Evasive Maneuvers. And what that does is it increases the amount of steps before hitting an encounter by a pretty significant margin. So after we get Evasive Maneuvers from Cyrus, it's going to be pretty rare to see random encounters on the screen. Because remember, every time you transition to a new screen, that counter resets. And if the screens are short enough, you just will never hit an enemy encounter.
It's like a permanent repel, effectively, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Well, if not a 100% repel, a helping sort of repel.
So we're taking a little bit of time and some money to finish those guys off with bandits. You get a little bit of extra experience and job points if you finish the enemy off on the first turn without getting hit. So this is the higher level area here. This is a bit of a scary place because higher level enemies are more likely to ambush you than lower level ones are. And if we get ambushed by an enemy here, we're definitely going to die. Well, almost certainly.
And so we're going to head up and grab this treasure chest for some money that we'll use later. And we're going to get an encounter and hope it's a good one. And
boy,
so
that frog has a mask.
Yeah, it's a bad encounter, unfortunately. These guys are pretty low on the amount of experience they give, and they also caught us by surprise. So I could finish these guys off with the an item I have, but because it's such a low experience encounter, and I'm already going to be taking a lot of damage and not getting like the first turn bonus, I'm just going to let these guys finish me off and hope for a better encounter on the second time through.
Yeah, so thankfully the checkpoint system in Octopath is pretty convenient. Every time you hit like a transition, it's going to place an autosave. So we're not sent back too far. We're just going to be sent back to the start of this area and have to head up, grab that chest again, and hope for a better encounter.
Yeah, this screen's a pretty notorious reset point because you have to hope you get a good encounter and also that it doesn't ambush you. So we got the bad encounter again. Hopefully, we got caught by surprise again. So this
Wouldn't be an RPG run without RNG, dude.
Yeah, this is a bit of the risk of Octopath speedrunning. Fortunately, it's like fairly safe in the sense that autosaves are very forgiving, but then it's also very unsafe in the sense that like this can happen a lot. So I'm gonna just let them finish me off again, same way, and we'll hope that third time is the charm.
And while we're going through this again, do you have a minute?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right, so we did get a $20 donation from Shameless Knights. Comment is fire bad, speed gaming good. I agree, and thank you for those $20. I'd also like to take a moment to remind you all that we have a few donation incentives coming up, so you can put your money towards things. We have donation bid wars for 2 of the 3 Sonic games in the Sonic block. If you want to decide which character is played in Sonic Advance, you can donate towards that. If you want to donate for which path is taken in Shadow the Hedgehog, you can donate for that. And in about 4 hours or so, or maybe even a little bit less, depending on how fast everyone goes, the Paper Mario run has an upgrade incentive to fight all bosses. So that's a really interesting thing and has a little bit of ways to go. So you do have some time, but it's $200 and we don't have a ton of that towards it. So if you want to see that, you might want to get to donating.
Yeah, so unfortunately there we got that same encounter again, but this time just to like take it out, get the XP, and we'll be moving on.
Bruce, we've been talking through this and practicing. I haven't seen you get that bad RNG.
That was pretty terrible. Yeah, that's exceptionally bad RNG there. But fortunately, you know, it's not the end of the world. We just need to get Cyrus to 100 JP. And unfortunately, after that encounter, he stopped at 99. So we'll need to take one more fight, and then we'll have our evasive maneuvers.
Oh, that is fantastic. I mean, it's not, but it's kind of fantastic.
It's pretty fantastic.
Here we go, one more encounter, and you know, just Slippy really has like a bone to pick with us today.
Yeah,
Shouldn't be seeing too many more frogs after this, though.
I know you've talked about it a little bit, but what goes into whether you decide to finish off a fight or attempt to, you know, break and flee instantly?
So it's a combination of like the turn order that we're given. If we get, you know, a nice turn order, then a lot of times it'll be more worth fighting it because you can get some of that extra experience. But if you get a mean one, or if it's enemies that are going to take a while, then you just decide to try and cut and run.
Yeah, so here we're leveling up, or not really leveling, just spending our job points to get a couple skills on Cyrus here. And now we have evasive maneuvers, so the chance of encounter is going to go down quite a bit. So this screen right here, I think the next one is going to be, or maybe it's this one that's pretty long.
This first one's not too bad. The second one is the one that it's pretty hard to avoid a fight on. Even if you have perfect movement, this second one can still get you anyway.
This is so tense. Every time you're just running around in the wilderness, it's like any moment a mean monster could just pop up and ruin your day.
Yeah. It's especially scary in the later game areas. Fortunately, the monsters here are fairly low level. Oh, we almost made it. Not quite, but this is a pretty quick group of enemies to finish off. Especially, they're weak to fire, so we can just use Cyrus to break them. And once they're broken, a flee is guaranteed. So we don't need any more experience. We'll just break them and get on out of here.
As we're heading to the starting city of our third character, Haunted, that's Swarky. really we're just going to enter the town and then leave to go do other things for a little bit. But I don't think we've mentioned it yet, but every time you enter a new town, that sets that town as a fast travel point. So once you're in, you could just teleport over to the map. So we can go all the way back to where Tressa started, where we picked up Cyrus at any point, really.
There's another small thing we could sort of mention while we have a moment. I've noticed that you've been collecting money from unfortunate souls whenever you enter a new screen, right?
Yeah, so that's Tressa's passive ability. She just, as you move around in areas that have enemies, the game is counting your steps and multiplying it by a bit of a mathematical formula based on how tough the enemies are there. But the, like, as you move around, you just kind of build up this passive money, and then as you screen transition, sometimes you get to just have that money. So we're sort of slowly building up funds as we go along.
Well, that's going to be useful, especially since hired help is such a valuable skill in this run. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that's basically, like, by percentage, the largest usage of your money, right?
Oh, overwhelmingly so. Like, it's not even close. It's almost all of the money we use.
Or leafs, as I guess they're technically called. Every game needs its own version of money.
Yeah, I think everyone just calls it gold, but I think the game technically refers to them as leaves.
Yeah, so we're taking a quick detour down to, like, really the starting area for the warrior. We're not going to recruit him, but around each starting character is a shrine. And the shrines give you an item that you can equip on one of your characters to give them, like, the job stats and, like, the job skills of that job. So here is the warrior shrine. We're going to use this later. And, you know, after this, we're going to head down and get the merchant shrine. Just because hired help is so amazing, we want to have it on multiple characters.
Yeah, and just sort of a, like, high-level overview of what's going on in the route right now. We've sort of interrupted the phase of the game where we collect characters to stop and do a bit of a late-game collection phase. We're actually going into a very high-level area, and thanks to this evasive maneuvers and a little bit of creative movement, what we're going to try and do is get in here and get access to some chests that have like large amounts of money and some items that are not intended to be gotten until quite late in the game. But by doing this now, we can have a bunch of money and good consumable items for later on to make some of our bosses quite a bit easier.
And we're also going to activate the checkpoint for, like, the last chapter. But, you know, before we get to that, Roos is going to make a save at this location here. Because if you save and reload the game, it resets your step counter. And on some of these screens that are really long, you're going to guaranteed get an encounter just because of how much you have to travel. And any encounter in this place will just completely wipe our party because it's so high level. So by taking a save here and reloading, refreshes that step counter and we'll be able to safely get to the next screen.
You thought the encounters before were scary. You haven't seen
they're way scarier now, trust me. For this phase, especially because we only have 2 characters, like, taking any encounter is just guaranteed death.
Hey, you'll also notice on the top left, Tressa's collecting a lot more money from those unfortunate souls because it's based on, like, the level of the enemies in the area. So before we're getting like 100, now we're getting like 500, and as we get into the next high level zone, it's going to be in the thousands.
Yeah, so stopping by another shrine here. How many shrines are there in the run? There's, what, 3 of them total that I think
we're going to be getting 3, yeah. There are 8 of them out there in the game, but we only really need 3 of them, and they're for pretty specific abilities.
Presumably, sorry to interrupt, presumably those 8 correspond to the 8 octopuses that you can play in the run, right?
Yes, exactly.
Sorry, I thought of that joke at the beginning. I didn't have an opportunity to use it. I had to try.
Well, fortunately with RPG runs, you get a little bit of, like, downtime every now and then to slip your jokes in.
That's what you really want in a speed game.
Absolutely. You know, so side note, I think that's actually one of the things that makes this a pretty good RPG speedrun is, you know, most people, they hear RPG speedrun, they're like, oh, Final Fantasy, that's like 10 hours long, right? This run is like under an hour for most, like, reasonably competent runners. So you can very quickly, like, grind runs out and you don't have to worry about taking a whole day to get through it. And it's pretty easy to pick up. We have some quite good resources available in the Discord as well if you're interested in picking it up. Oh! So spoilers for anybody who's a little bit behind, but we took an encounter right at the end of a screen, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Just
this
like
is,
one step away.
yeah, this
Yeah,
is
like
a
right
pretty
at
high
the
level
exit there.
set of enemies, and you'll see how it goes. But oh man, that's really good. We just successfully fled from them without breaking them. That's even harder to do on higher level enemies. Like the chance
Yeah,
to escape
your
goes
chances
down.
of fleeing are based on like the relative difference in your levels. So the percentage chance that I managed to escape from that was incredibly low.
Yeah, so we countered the unluckiness of getting that encounter with some luck of our own. Now we're going to use another save and reload here to refresh that step counter.
I was going to say, too, in terms of like emphasizing that this is a high level zone that you're not exactly meant to be in yet, the chest from a little bit ago gave, what, 20,000 money, I think?
Yeah, like when we went into some earlier chests, they're like, 1,000 gold or something like that. This one is just, orders of magnitude higher.
And we're also getting some large soul stones. I think up until now we've mostly been using medium, but the large has like the highest damage that you'll see from soul stone, and we'll be using them for some bosses later on. And now we're gonna head to this dungeon called the Walk of the Lost King. And in here, well, first we're gonna get this checkpoint. And
Yeah,
why
we're
are we getting
tagging this town.
checkpoint?
We're tagging this town because it's actually where the final boss for Tressa's story is, so we'll need to come back here anyway. Additionally, we need to come into this dungeon for 2 chests, but the problem is the second one is way in the back, and we can't get there and then back out without taking a 100% lethal encounter. But because towns can become fast travel points by activating it first, I can open this chest and then just teleport over to the town afterwards and not have to do the backtrack out of the dungeon again.
That's so clever, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of...
Sorry, all this just made possible by that really great passive ability that Cyrus has. Because otherwise, for sure, we'd get an encounter getting back to that chest.
Oh, yeah, without evasive maneuvers, this run would be drastically different and probably require a pretty good bit of grinding, I have to imagine.
Yep, so we're almost done with this little, side trip here. Just doing one final shopping trip over in Grandport to buy some really high-level items. One thing we're going to get that we're going to make particularly good use of is the energizing pomegranate. What does that do?
Energizing pomegranate is a one-time just going to give a character a bunch of BP, and we're going to be saving those for the final boss because we're going to need a lot of boost points on our hired helps to finish her off.
Speaking of BP, just a random thought I had. Did we explicitly talk about the donate BP ability?
No, I don't think we did. We haven't seen it yet. It only is going to get used one time. It's an ability we put on Tressa, and what it does is it just allows her to give some of her BP to somebody else instead.
Yeah, so right here in this building, we're going back to steal some very fancy artwork as well as 25,000 bucks from the unguarded chest. So, because we need.
I just want to remind everybody.
Yeah.
Just remind everybody, we are the good guys in this game. Trust me, we're totally the good guys. Even
I mean,
though
really,
we're
it was their fault for leaving that unlocked just out in the open. It was just asking to be taken. We don't even have the thief in our party yet.
So this is
it's going to
Hana.
get worse.
Hana is the third character that we will be recruiting to the party. She is a hunter over here in this village that we had stopped by earlier and now can just quickly teleport back to.
She's essentially Pokemon the character. She captures monsters and reuses them. Unfortunately, that mechanic is way too slow for a speedrun, so we're never actually going to get to see it. We really just use her for her multi-hitting bow attacks.
Probably puts the monsters in her pocket if I had to guess.
Yeah, there's a couple multiple hit attacks that we're going to be using. One of them is 1,000 spears, and the other one rain of arrows. And really, it has a chance to hit anywhere between 3 and 8 times, or 5 and 8 times, something like that. But 3 of them are guaranteed to hit. For sure.
Yeah, essentially the way it works is it's going to decide between 5 and 8 attempts to hit, and then it's going to guarantee that at least 3 of them will hit. So they're very, very useful for breaking shields because you can get that guaranteed 3 hits in.
Yeah, earlier on, it wasn't that big of a deal to have something like that, but as we fight higher level enemies, the chance to miss goes up drastically.
Not only that, but the number of shield points that bosses are going to have is going to go up as well.
Yeah, so just continuing on through the woods, the objective here is essentially to complete Hanet's Chapter 1, right? Fighting this very high-level Pokemon that we found in the woods.
Yes, this is Gizarmamon, I guess, since we're going with the Pokemon theme. And he used to be a gigantic source of RNG and is actually being a little bit of a meanie here. He like opens up with this multi-hitting attack, and like the number of hits as well as who he hits is random. So he if he gangs up on Hanet when she's very low level, he can cause like a lot of difficulty for us.
Yeah, there's that Rain of Arrows ability to get some number of hits that does have some RNG. But for these high-level bosses, you want to try to break them at specific times in pretty much all cases.
Yeah, there's actually some place where you can get too lucky or too unlucky, and that means you're hitting extra attacks that you don't want to do and you break them at the wrong time. But not going to happen today, so we broke the boss, and now...
And I've actually made a bit of a mistake here, unfortunately. I needed to break him on a turn later. I should be able to recover it just fine, because we need an extra turn to get these soul stones off. So we'll just... as he comes out here, we'll re-break him and then finish him off pretty quickly. Shouldn't be too difficult.
Have we talked about the fact that as sort of a recovery mechanic, when an enemy gets broken, it loses its turn and the next turn, but then the turn after that, it always goes first?
Yes, so it's basically just a way to prevent you from like keeping an enemy in infinite break lock. They're always going to be getting at least a few turns off on you.
We're going to use Lightning Blast boosted from Cyrus. So Lightning Blast always does 2 hits, so we can use that. The enemy is weak to lightning. And now one more Soul Stone, and see ya.
Well done.
Thank you, thank you. Like I said, bit of a mistake early on, but fortunately managed to recover it without too much time loss. Still better than dying to him.
I just have some story cleanup really here for Hanet, and then we'll be on to our final character that we'll be recruiting.
Hanet's story is kind of cool. She's like a apprentice hunter here in this village, and she's apprenticed under like the most legendary hunter. And he goes off and starts hunting this monster called Red Eye, and he doesn't come back for months. And then like his animal companion Wolf limps back into town, and like him and his animal companion are never separated. So she's convinced that something bad has happened to him. So she sets out to find out what happened to her master. Unfortunately, that's as far into the story as we're going to get. Tressa is the only person we're actually going to do any chapter 2, 3, or 4 from. So everyone else, we're just going to get the intro to their story and then move on.
Yeah, and really all these areas around this like circle that at the start where all the characters are recruited. You know, it starts off with only having 1, but it scales up in level and difficulty as you recruit more characters up to a maximum of 4. So once you have like a full party of 4, it stops scaling and everything is actually like starts to get pretty scary because all of the characters you recruit like still start out at level 1.
Yeah, and like the later game areas, all the chapter 2, 3, and 4 stuff, that does not scale. That's just got a flat difficulty level. It's just only the beginning areas that scale depending on how many characters you have. All right, so we're coming in to get Therion here. Therion is a legendary thief, and he's heard rumors that this family in this town here has a super rare treasure. So being the good guys, obviously, we're going to break in and we're going to steal it.
Yep.
Stealing's okay if you're
the
stealing
good
from
guys.
bad people.
Don't forget.
I mean, stealing is okay if you're an RPG protagonist. That's what I've been taught for many years.
Just take the Skyrim approach, toss a bucket on their head or something. So here we are in Ravis Manor, another area. There's some interesting mechanics about the encounter rate in this manor, right?
Yes, this is one of 2 areas we'll be going to where transitioning the screen actually does not reset your steps back to 0. So that first screen and that second screen together are both counting up steps together.
Yeah, so because of how long it is, you're just guaranteed pretty much to hit an encounter here. And you know, here we go.
And we'll finish these guys off here with a hired help bandit. Kill him off, get a little bit of extra experience, which is pretty nice because remember, Therion, since we just recruited him, he's level 1, and like Hanet was also really low level 2 because we actually just got her as well. So a little bit of extra experience is appreciated on them, and it's faster than trying to run away from them, most likely, and you know, unless we happen to get super lucky and get a first turn flee. So we get to the super rare treasure and fight the surprisingly combat adept butler for the house here.
Who has the best name for a butler you can imagine. His name is Heathcote.
Like, if you're born and your name is Heathcote, can you be anything but a butler? I think it's actually predetermined at that point.
You could be a cat.
Yeah, that's true. That definitely sounds like a cat's name as well. Although if you're going to be a cat, I think it needs to be Mr. Heathcote, not just Heathcote.
I think that's fair.
Speaking of cats, though, we have a donation from Kitty Cat, $100. Good luck, have fun to all of the runners. This goes to my boys here for that all masks intensive. Let's go!
Thank you so much for that. So you saw during the donation there, Therion threw the first of our Soulstone L's, and on a broken enemy, it did, I think, 5,400 damage. So those Soulstone L's, incredibly valuable for that really high base level of damage that they pull off.
So with Heathcote out of the way, what happens next?
So now we are finished with all of our Chapter 1s. We've collected almost all of the stuff we need for finishing off the run in terms of money and consumable items. So now we're going to kind of enter the third and final phase of the run. We're going to do a bit of a boss rush on the rest of Tressa's story here. So conveniently enough, Tressa's Chapter 2 is in the next town over, so it'll just be a short little walk here. This is a bit of a scary screen. It's quite a long one, so it's one of the ones that even with very good movement is still pretty likely to give you a fight. And if you get unlucky with what enemies are in it, it can give you quite a few headaches. So hopefully we can get through this without one.
While you're walking, Roos, didn't you tell me that using the D-pad like increases your chance at avoiding encounters?
So there's actually a lot of mystery still surrounding encounters, and people have been trying to figure out in the Discord for a while. It seems like, but we don't have any hard data, I don't think, to back up that using D-pad movement for some reason is more efficient on your step router, even though like you would think an analog stick with precise angles would be better, but it certainly seems like it. Like I used to move with analog stick only, and when I heard that, I tried it out, and it definitely feels like it improves the encounter rate.
That's so interesting to me. Maybe it's not true, but anyway.
I don't. We've had a look. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we've made it to Chapter 2 now for Tressa's campaign. So we're in this mining town. You've got this, the head of the mining company, being kind of a jerk. We're going to go around and buy all of their rocks that they're mining, and we're going to sell them later.
Unfortunately, the head of the mining town here doesn't like that we're paying his workers more than he is, so him and his big burly henchmen are going to show up and tell us it's time to leave town. And being the goody-good protagonists we are, we're going to go break into his house and beat him up for it.
Exactly. Because we're just like the most, perfect, good protagonists there are.
So in addition to buying all these stones for the quest, we're also going to take time to buy a couple of soul stones for fights later on. So we just got to clean up these little story progression things here, and then we'll be heading on to go fight her Chapter 2 boss. Which, despite only being the Chapter 2 out of 4 bosses, he's actually in some ways the scariest boss in the game.
Yeah, so
looks spooky.
Yeah,
we'll get more into the specifics on him. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
As we're going through this, I don't think we've touched on this before, but Therion has a couple of very specific uses. One of those is the Armor Corrosive that we're going to level up right before the Omar fight. That's going to basically drastically reduce the defense on any enemies. We're going to use that on all the bosses to make sure our hired help does as much damage as possible. But outside of that, really, Therion's going to be like our item man and give everybody healing items or revive people type of thing.
Yeah, he's got pretty limited use other than that specific Armor Corrosive. He's just, since he's really close to where we want to be going anyway, and he does have, so he's ends up being the best of the 4th characters to get.
Speaking of hired help, you already mentioned that there are multiple tiers of hired help where you can spend more money to get more powerful helpers. Have we seen anything past the initial tier yet?
We've done bandits and merchants. That's the most expensive one we used up to this point. So we haven't actually gotten to unleash the full power of hired help just yet. We will on this next boss, though.
And
I'm excited
this next
for it.
boss plays nice.
All right.
I also want to mention. Well, go ahead, Roos. Go ahead.
This screen on the way to his mansion is possible to get through without encounters, but it's pretty spooky and it has high-level enemies. So as a nod to marathon safety, we'll take the save reset here.
I was just going to say I really enjoy the name of the next zone, Morlock's Manse. It's just so enjoyable to say, in my opinion.
It sounds very medieval, that's for sure.
Yeah, I had to go look up what a manse was, and it's just like a type of mansion. And never do that before this game. Pretty interesting. All right, so now we've broken into his house, left the door unlocked, didn't even need the thief to open it. Now we're just gonna head around. I think get one encounter in here probably.
Yeah, this is the second area where steps don't reset on screen transition. So we're still building up steps from the entrance. So we're gonna take a fight before we get to our save point here. We save up a large soul stone specifically to use on this fight, though. Caught by surprise, though, so hopefully we don't get killed here.
Is getting caught by surprise? I mean, the fights are RNG. Is getting caught by surprise also RNG?
Yes. If you need to ask the question, is blank in this game RNG? I can go ahead and yes, it is RNG.
So it looks like we're through, and Therion doing what Therion does. It's going to use an item and take out the rest of the enemies. So now before we head into Omar, we're going to have to do a lot of equipping. You just picked up a hasty helm from a chest there. We're going to put that on Tressa. That's going to increase her chance of going early in the turn order. We're also going to give Cyrus the warrior ability that we picked up way, way earlier in our big diverging side quest. That's going to allow him to use a couple attacks to break down the shields. Also going to teach Cyrus 1,000 spears. It's basically the equivalent of rain of arrows, 5 to 8 attacks with 3 guaranteed to hit. We're going to teach Haned a couple things, mainly hired help for now, and one other thing that's going to happen later. And finally, Therion's going to get armor corrosive, and that's going to allow us to really reduce the defense on this boss. But now, we hope for a good turn order, Roos.
Moment of
okay,
truth.
we didn't really get a good one, unfortunately. Actually, we're getting a really terrible one.
So, Roos, what's hard about this fight? Why does the turn order matter so much?
So his henchmen in the back do incredibly large amounts of damage, and it gets even worse if you do damage to them, because they can do an attack called Violent Slash, which is multi-hitting and will pretty much wipe our party in one go. So what we have to do is we have to hope we can kill them off with 2 soulstones before they get a chance to act. And unfortunately, we didn't get that, got a bunch of our characters killed, and I think we're going to get wiped here because it's been too many turns. Omar's going to do his big side swipe attack and just clear our party out. Yeah, there it is. So unfortunately, not able to overcome that turn order. Fortunately, the save is like right there, so it's not the end of the world. That's just kind of the reality of Omar, unfortunately. He's a beast.
Reminder that we are underleveled.
Drastically underleveled.
Where would the fun be if you leveled up properly?
But now we're going to go in once again, and please, RNG, give us a good turn order, and...
Spoiler alert, it was not a good turn order.
Oh, that's so unlucky.
That looks terrible.
Yeah, this is a really bad one. I may just let them, because this is close to unrecoverable. Yeah, I'm just going to let them finish me off, and we'll hope for third try as the charm on this one.
Yeah, once again, like the big thing, these little goons that Omar brings with him, if you damage them at all, they have a chance of dealing with like really, really high damage attacks. So we want to make sure that they're dead before they get a turn in, after we damage them. But hey, third time's the charm, Roos, right?
Well, it worked for the encounters earlier. Okay, I'll do my best. Fortunately, this is probably the most RNG boss fight in the run. There's still some uncertainty to the final boss, but it's not as bad as this one is. The henchmen in the back one really make this one just totally brutal.
I think it's still really cool once you get that turn order. I mean, it sucks that RNG is RNG, right? When it's not in your favor, but.
And man, unfortunately, again,
not looking good, boys.
It's this one. It's those frogs way back in the woods. I guess they call that marathon RNG.
Okay, we're gonna take a bit of a risk here and hope that we can kill him off here. This is not looking too good. Not looking too good at all. We might be able to survive this.
Oh, man.
I believe in your abilities.
If Cyrus can go before Omar here, maybe. Oh no, this is not good. I think he's gonna sideswipe here, unfortunately.
Let's do this.
Yep, there it is. Ah. This is a particularly bad Omar here. It's definitely like not uncommon for him to kill you, but this many times in a row is pretty uncommon.
I will say, or I guess we can reiterate how generous the save point system is in this game, like the autosave system. Imagine having to run through another, 5 minutes to get back here every time.
or if you had to watch a bunch of cutscenes ahead of time. Okay, this one I think should work unless Omar specifically kills Therion on his first turn.
My turn now.
Yeah, so we just need 2 characters to go before the goons do. So, Omar, please don't target Therion. Do something nice for once. And yes, taking out Cyrus. See ya, Cyrus. Don't need you right now. And it's going to take out the enemies, and now should be in pretty good shape.
Using this.
This is where I think the fight becomes more traditional in the sense that you see that 5 sort of break value for Omar. So these characters are going to be trying to break him at the appropriate time using those soul stones to get a lot of damage, using hired help when appropriate. A lot of the things we've seen already.
Yeah, so putting the armor corrosive on the boss is going to reduce the defense. Now, we taught Hanit the merchant skills, but first we need to break them. And thankfully, we have Tressa here, going to a 2 boost attack. And now he's broken, and now it's just spam to the end. And one thing we didn't mention was we taught Cyrus Insight. This is an ability that forces the boss to target them, basically like a taunt. And we're going to use that, you know, that big multi-attack that we saw earlier. It's all going to go on Cyrus. And, or is that later? Crap.
Yeah, not going to be on this one, unfortunately.
Not this one, yeah, okay. Scratch that. I'll do that explanation again when it gets to it. That's later on. But there's the veteran soldier right there, so that's a lot of damage.
That damage is ludicrous.
Almost as ludicrous as the damage they do to us.
Call it payback for the bad RNG.
Okay, so managed to make it through Omar. A little bruised, a little bloody, but still alive.
Yeah, with that out of the way, we're going to teleport back to Boulderfall to sort of continue with Tressa. Tressa's chapters, I should say.
Yeah, so our chapter 3 is going to be a little up to the north, kind of close to where Hanit's starting area was. Fortunately, the boss for that area not going to be nearly as RNG as Omar. Hopefully we can get away with a first try one here. There is a slight bit of luck involved in the sense that like we're gonna use a multi-hitting attack, and if we get, what's ironic is the bad luck is if our luck is too good. If we get too many hits and break him early, we can get in trouble. But hopefully we won't be seeing that today.
And before we start Tressa's Chapter 3, we're going to head up to the Huntress Shrine and get another one of those skills or items that allow us to teach another character a job. And the main reason we want that is we want to give Tressa Leg Hold Trap. We leveled that up earlier, but haven't had a chance to use it, and that's going to come into play later on. And what Leg Hold Trap does is you cast it on an enemy, and it forces them to go last in the next turn, which is really, really powerful by just manipulating whatever bad RNG you get in the turn order. And we want that on 2 people, Tressa and Hanit, in order to minimize the chance of like getting screwed over by one of them dying. So if a boss targets the one person with Leg Hold Trap, then well, we're done and have to restart. But by having that on 2 people, we'll be able to avoid that.
So if you're trying to go for world record, the current world record strats actually skip the shrine and just hope that you get away with only having one. And that's kind of like how top levels of runs of this game go, is you just do all of the really YOLO strats and hope they work out. But for marathon safety, definitely going to go ahead and get the second one.
I do enjoy how much turn order matters in the combat. There's a lot of clever usages to manipulate both your turn order and the enemy's turn order.
Yeah, I agree. I really, really love the battle system in this game. It's definitely one of my favorite RPG systems. It's very, it's simple and easy to understand with lots and lots of hidden depth to it.
Yeah, so we're now in Victor's Hollow, Tressa's Chapter 3. What's going on here, Roos? What are we doing?
So early on in Chapter 1, we met this guy who used to be a pirate and has turned merchant, and him and Tressa have become friends. And we meet up with him here again and find out some of his past a little bit, and find out he's got a little bit of a painful past. He had a rivalry with a friend of his who unfortunately died in a shipwreck, and he's got some painful memories associated with that. So we're trying to help him out by getting him this like valuable gem or something here that was related to their past, and just help him feel better about everything that went down between him and his friend. So unfortunately, the gem we're trying to find is guarded by a large poisonous tiger that we're going to have to fight when we get over there.
Yeah, it looks like a saber-toothed tiger, but Since it's poisonous, it's now called a Venom Tooth Tiger. Makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me too. Plus, it just looks amazing, in my opinion. Like, it's one of the cooler enemy designs out of a pool of enemies that are all very, very cool looking.
Definitely agreed. So we're going to do a quick little side quest here. We just use Cyrus to talk to this lady and get some information out of her and then go tell it to the guy over there. It's just a quick way to get a boost of money. It's, you know, just a handful of seconds for a pretty hefty chunk of change. So worth it to take the time to do it in the speedrun.
All right, yay, backstory. But we're going to skip all this, so... Keeping the motto of a kind of spoiler-free story. I mean, we're given the Cliff Notes version, but all the details, that's for you to find out.
Shoutouts to Octopath for letting you skip everything, by the way.
Yeah, being able to skip cutscenes, much appreciated. I would really like it if every RPG developer forever included that from now on. And I actually really enjoyed the story in this chapter casually. The backstory of the pirate guy is actually quite intriguing and well written, I thought.
All right, now we're heading to the area where that tiger is hiding out.
Big, evil, spooky venom-toothed tiger down in the Forgotten Grotto.
So this is the only screen in the game where we're actually going to do 2 save resets because it's just such a long dungeon. The second one is technically optional, but I mean, even with perfect movement, if your encounters, if the encounter is going to come on the lower end of your range there, you can definitely still get one anyway. So worth the investment to do the save here, I think, unless you're going for world record. Speaking of records, sound like a bit of a broken record saying, hey, by the way, if you want world record, go for this crazy strat that's luck-based.
I guess that's the nature of the beast, though. I mean, every RPG has RNG to some extent. What's interesting to me is specifically the step route, which we've already talked about a number of times, but how it is manipulatable in some of these ways. Like, it's cool that you are able to take the safety and you aren't just completely screwed by getting a guaranteed encounter that's going to wreck you.
Yeah, I agree. The tricks that are used, especially like in that collection phase we did earlier to allow us to get to the late game chests and stuff was quite cool.
Yeah, we took a little detour to get another chest containing 15,000 bucks, and really the magic number we're trying to reach right now is 90,000. That's because Veteran Soldier, the most powerful hired help, costs 30,000 bucks. We need to use it 4 times on the final boss. We can steal 30,000 from her, and so we need at least 90,000 going into it. But here's our Venom Tooth.
So what's the hardest part of this fight? What do you need to manage?
So this fight, surprisingly, despite the very intimidating looking enemy, is essentially consistent, unless this attack that I'm about to do with Haunted hits too many times and breaks him. But because of the fact that his first turn he doesn't attack you, you can break him and kill him before he actually gets a chance to do anything to you. So this fight's actually really, there's not too much to worry about.
It looks terrifying, though.
It looks terrifying.
That's why there's something else.
Well, there's one clever thing you did there. You could have broken that guy last time using an ability. Instead, you defended and then broke him this turn to take 2 turns away from him rather than 1.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, so when you break an enemy, the actual mechanics are that you remove all of their turns from the current turn as well as the next one. So by doing that defend and breaking him on the next turn, you're essentially getting to steal an extra set of turns from him. And we'll be using that in the final boss later as well.
You know, I just want to throw in as we're closing out this fight that, you know, Hunter Foreign Trust is like the most adorable thing I've ever seen.
It really is. I love her little hat. It's so good.
Yeah, you're also using Steal and Collect to grab a large olive of life and some extra cash. Largely for using the veteran soldiers in that final fight, as you mentioned.
Yeah, the amount you steal from a boss, it's always guaranteed. 16,000 from this one, 30,000 from the final boss. And the chance to steal increases based on the HP. So as the HP gets down, you're going to get close to 100% chance of getting it. You can also boost it for extra luck if you really need to.
Yeah, and we'll need to boost our collect in the final boss coming up, but all the other ones at least are consistent without any boost points.
We have a couple donations here if we have a moment.
Go right ahead. We got some walking to do first.
Cool. We have $25 from some guy named Wormtalon. All bosses in Mario? How hard can they be? They're made of paper, after all. Reminder that coming up after the Sonic block, which also has a couple donation incentives for which character you play as in Kirby Master will play as in Sonic Advance, and which story Blazing Zeddy will do in Shadow the Hedgehog. There is an incentive to upgrade the Paper Mario run to all bosses. So if you want to see all the bosses in that game, definitely get donating towards that. We also have $5 from Rex, or Rhex. I'm thinking Rex. What's good, Roos? Glad to see you repping some Octopath Traveler. Hoping for a good turn order RNG, rip, and blessings to fight best waifu Esmeralda. Good luck and have fun. Smiley face.
I'm still laughing at that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My phone's going off there.
So you just bought a bunch of stuff.
Sold a bunch of stuff, actually.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this is all part of
then.
getting to that 90,000 magic number. We're at 86,962 now, but a couple more things to do.
Okay, that should get us enough money. Yeah,
Did you apply all the jobs and whatnot that you need?
We
to
sure
all
did, yes. Okay, so we're not quite at 90k, but you'll recall that we pick up that money from Unfortunate Souls along the way, so we'll still get one more round of that in the final dungeon, which will round out our money to be as much as we need.
So you may recall this from earlier. This is that checkpoint we went in. I think this is where we stole that painting to sell, as well as a couple other things. Stole some money. Now we're back for revenge.
Revenge on the sign that we did.
So way back in chapter 1, like sort of the impetus for Tressa going out and journeying into the world is she got this diary from a legendary merchant, and it's unfinished. So she wanted to retrace his steps and follow along and sort of finish his journey through the diary. And this lady that we're going to be fighting showed up and recognized the diary as being from somebody famous, I guess, and stole it from us. So we're trying to track her down and beat her up and take it back.
I was going to ask you who this final boss is, but you just sort of answered it for me. Down in the sewers, do we have enough money, as you said? We're going to be getting some more along each screen, right?
Yeah, we should be fine on money. I'll double check right before we get to the end here, but given the amount that we had, shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, that's 2,000. We were at 88,000.
Yeah, we're over.
So we are good. We've made it.
So we'll take our save here. Just double check, make sure everything's looking good. Should be fine. Let's give it a shot. Let's hope she's kind, because she will one-shot a character every time she gets an action, so we have to hope that she's not too mean with return orders here.
No, but we got the good luck from that generous donator. So we're gonna get. It's gonna be the perfect turn order, Roos.
I certainly hope so.
This is one instance where you could emphasize sort of the combination of all the abilities we've gotten. There's the leg hold trap to push Esmeralda's turns later in the next turn order. This is also where Therion's going to, or is it Cyrus who's going to use Insight?
That will be Cyrus after we've gotten her broken. Not just yet.
Yeah, Esmeralda has this, pretty crazy chain attack that attacks multiple times, and if it's not focused on one person, it's just going to wipe your party. So by using Insight on Cyrus, it's basically taunt. All those attacks will hit on Cyrus instead, and he'll just take the blows for the team, so to speak.
Let my arrow fly in truth.
Are those armor corrosives stacking or just
Yes, they're
lengthening?
essentially adding extra turns on. It's not going to make her take more damage. It's just to get more turns on it, for his sake.
My turn now.
All right, now that she is broken, we're going to use Donate BP to give some BP to Hanet. Hanet is the other character we have with the hired help. We're going to use this as well to do a veteran soldier. Wait, that was veteran soldier. And just deal a crap ton of damage to her. So we need 4 total sets of hired help here to finish her off. And remember, we're at 90,000, so we still need to go and steal the 30,000 bucks from her. In order to do that, we're gonna do 3 of these veteran soldiers first to get her pretty low HP to increase our chance of collecting that money.
So this is where it gets interesting. Coming out, Esmeralda had 2 turns. The first turn she buffed herself and then did a chained attack that would have probably wiped the whole party, except for that Insight that we mentioned. Cyrus just tanked all of it, allowing the other 3 to stay alive.
And we're really making use of those multiple hit attacks like Rain of Arrows and 1,000 Spears, because otherwise we'd miss like everything. But those 3 guaranteed hits are very nice.
Yep, breaking one more time. I believe there are 2 veteran soldier hired helps left to go.
Correct. So we'll need to get 1 collect off and 1 more hired help, and that should finish her off.
The damage numbers.
Yeah, there's hired help number 3, and now it should be pretty easy to collect the final bit of money.
There's a collect 100% chance, I believe it was. There's the extra 30k. That's enough to finish her off very shortly. Nice job.
Thank you, thank you. Little touch and go at the start there, but fortunately much kinder than Omar was. Got away with it. Okay, so time is not quite yet. We have a couple of cutscenes we have to skip. I will tell you when time is going to be. I have to move around here and hold down B. Time will be coming up. There's going to be a cutscene where we're outside on the beach, and when the bar for the skip fills up, that's when it will be.
Yeah, I know we found this like gem worth like $1 billion or something like that, but Tressa.
All right, time is right now.
Oh yeah, so Tressa discovered that $1 billion didn't really need it, and the true value was discovering all her friends and making.
Yes, the true $1 billion was the friends we made along the way. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. That was Octopath Traveler Tressa's story, also known as Tressa Single Story RTA. We got a little bit of interesting RNG along the way, but still got to show off what's cool about the run. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will definitely shout out the Octopath Discord, full of super helpful people. Got good resources on there if you are interested in learning this run. Thank you so much to my commentators, Fant and Grimelios. Really appreciate you guys joining me today.
No problem. It's fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Good job, Bruce.
And right there,
and I hope everybody.
Go ahead.
No, please.
Right there at the end of the run, we got a $20 donation from Magiatron. I haven't finished this game yet, so I was worried about spoilers, but this speedrun is too compelling to stop watching. Shoutouts to the excellent commentators, and good luck with the rest of the marathon. So it seems like people definitely enjoyed your run as well.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad I got to show it off. Thank you to Cal Fire for letting me get to show this off. All right, I'm looking forward to the rest of the marathon. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you again, and soon we are going to have Sanic Block. Time to go fast, people.